Okay, so what are we gonna do about
We should have put
the
some
funny
cricket
quote?
sounds, chirping.
I don't know, man. Like, it's a silent movie. Where are we going to get a quote from?
I am most interesting and amused to see what you guys are gonna come up with.
Well, I did watch the 4K restored, colorized version with the director's commentary. So
Does that
I mean,
like
there
a
was
like
some.
being face to face with an RGB gas television like the old ones?
It was a little bit like that,
You
yeah.
mean like a
And,
Like when you
CRT?
used to go up to the CRT television and stare at the little
yeah,
pixels really close.
yeah.
Back when I could
Hey,
focus that close, yeah.
I used to have cable services, and it was like optic fiber directly to the TV, and that's how I used to watch Venus and Playboy back then, man. Because you could not have the channels unless you pay for it, so you will see like a back in the middle of the interference of the like, oh, I saw a piece of ass crack. You know what I mean? It was a girl.
Oh wow, the memories, child's memories, huh?
Well,
Good
considering how
times.
old this movie is, I think they're pretty young memories by comparison.
Oh wow, this movie is 120 years old. Can you believe that?
Damn, man. Feels
It's
like
crazy.
yesterday.
And for all of you listening to our comment, oh my god, it's like yesterday. And for all of you listening to
What
our
are you,
commentary here,
vampire Lestat?
It
we
just
are
escapes me
talking
sometimes.
about
It's like
the very first sci-fi movie on cinemas. Very
that we
first.
know of. That we know of.
With the first George.
No, the first George is George of the Jungle. Welcome
No,
to
no,
the
because we
streets.
had, we all know George Lucas, but this, is prior George Lucas, right?
Yeah, I think so. This was his
Hey, Gio,
great grandfather.
Gio, tell us your plot.
My
I'm
blood.
very interested to hear your version of the plot of this movie.
Well, man, the movie starts with it's like a mental asylum slash like old people home, like where you take like where what they say about grandpas, like we took it to a farm and they're living there now, so we can see and visit grandpa. And basically, it's a bunch of old folks because, as you can see, they look like Leonardo da Vinci on his picture. Like no hair in here, but long, like clingy or machines on three hairs on the back, and they're cool. So they start doing cocaine, and they think they're on the moon. There's one of them that thinks he's a president, and the other ones think that they are part of some kind of Congress. Um, and basically, they get way too much fun with the cocaine. Well, at least that's what it looks like. Is white powder. There's a lot of white powders you can do today that are worse. And they trip so hard that I mean, it's even snowing, bro. I don't know how much money they spent on how cheap was it back then. And they start seeing
Hey, they
mushrooms,
used to
bro.
put it in the cola back in those days, so
Damn.
pretty
Yeah, yeah.
cheap.
I was watching a series of Sigmund Freud, and this motherfucker will put cocaine on his coffee. I was like, holy shit. I want to go back to Austria. And basically, they had way too much fun with the mushrooms, and it starts raining, so they open the umbrellas, and they think that these are mushrooms too that are taking form of people. And they start bagging each other with the umbrellas and thinking that they're just poofing off and killing monsters. And next thing to nothing, they go to the fountain at the back of the mental asylum and basically take a bath in there, probably to refresh from the high that they got. And they think that they just like to wear swimming from the moon.
Hey, it was
And
hot
they
in
brought an
France.
alien. They brought an
I want to
alien with
watch
them, but I
this
think it was the
movie.
guy that they killed hitting it with umbrella.
I want to watch this movie. I don't want to watch the one I watched. I want to watch this. Where's the link? I want to watch this one.
This
Oh
story has
wow.
been copyright.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god. Gio, you have an announcement.
Yes, that's true. Actually, I do. I do. We are actually now members of the Blind Knowledge Network, and I mean, I tell everybody to go and check them out too. You guys can find a lot of great podcasts in there, and all kind of uh, media providers, even Twitch channels for gamers, everything. So go and
Awesome.
check them
They
out.
won't. You just
And
They
I
might
mean,
eat us
we
after
love being
this
part of.
episode.
Hmm?
They might eat us after this episode.
Oh well, I think that my plot got everybody intrigued now. Uh, and I
Sure.
mean, it's a must watch, man. If you do shrooms too while you watch it, you better be a shaman or something.
So, in case you haven't worked it out yet, this is the French movie La Voyage dans la Lune, which is Voyage to the Moon.
I feel so compelled to correct it.
Yeah, go and correct me. Correct me. I'm an Australian. I don't pronounce anything
The
correctly.
voice
So you
du
should be
la
used to
lune.
it.
The voice de la lune.
Yeah, and to all our French listeners, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I don't speak any French, so I do apologize. And please reach out and let us know. But
Yes.
we are not gonna we are gonna butcher the name only because of our ignorance. So
I
please
had an
don't.
idea. Look, I want to think of creative solutions. We're not gonna mention the names. We're gonna murder them for sure. This is not gonna be butchery. It's gonna be serial killing of French names. So we can say the president and his gang.
Oh
We
God.
we probably should have got a French guest on and just let them
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
it.
We should have. So I
But
apologize in advance.
everybody here in Florida at least talks Spanish, more Spanish, some English, and shit.
I speak two languages, English and bad English. Okay.
There you go. So I
Okay.
mean, that was my creative solution. So we don't have to shamelessly, because you gotta have to become shameless to say these things, and I'm gonna laugh every time. Or you can say the president and his crew.
There you go.
Or we just mentioned the
Let's
first
go.
letter on the names.
There we go. That would be a solution.
Do we have
Okay,
segments
so
this week?
yeah, let's move on to our segments.
Define science fiction remnant.
Okay, so you know the drill. The Define Science Fiction Remnant is a segment that we have where, if you want to shout out, you can go ahead and reach out to us via Twitter or via our hotline and let us know how you would define science fiction remnant to someone who loves sci-fi and have not heard our show. And it's just a way of us to try to join the community together. So if you want, just remember, if you want a shout out on this segment and future episodes, that's all you have to do. Just reach out to us, give us your definition, and you are going to be appearing on the next episode. Better yet, if you call the voice line, we will play your audio on the air.
Yeah.
Um, G- Gio, I think we got a repeat of our definition um, for how did someone defined us to someone who loves sci-fi. This comes from the creators of there's a comic book that is actually on crowdfunding right now. Um, and the creators actually listened to our episode of that comic book, and they actually said, which I think this is something that someone else has said already. They very short and simple. Top Gear for sci-fi.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that?
It's not a bad parallel, actually.
I like that.
We are the
I
embodiment.
see
We are the
ourselves.
embodiment of science fiction.
I like to think so. I think our passion. If you do anything you do in passion, it shows. And I we all love sci-fi here, so I like that. I really like that comment.
Yeah, I mean, I put all my heart on this. That's why most people think that I'm a hard motherfucker, but I just put all my heart in this so that I got no more left to give.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let's move on to the next segment. We are science fiction ready.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
And in this segment is our way to try to join the community together in a single hashtag. The hashtag is this is sci-fi. And you heard us talk about this previously. Basically, what it is, if you are a creator, a sci fi creator, or a sci fi fan, you want to follow or post, adding the hashtag this is sci fi so we can all benefit from your creation or anything that you have read. As an example, if you follow this hashtag and you see some of my posts, I usually post a lot of stuff that I found that I have read online from different magazines about sci-fi movies or sci-fi content or even scientific content. So it, and I, it's kind of amazing to me that I usually get comments back, and we start conversations about, especially those scientific articles and most of those science fiction movie and TV show articles that I find. Um, and I don't know exactly if you had, have you guys had any experience this week? I mean, aside from all my posts.
Well, to look for new conversations to pick on, and really to practice my
God.
Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am chaotic, man. I'm Captain Chaos. So I just spin, and wherever I see harmony, I cannot let it be. I have that human condition, you know. We have to fuck it all up when it's all going good. That's why we don't have.
He's leaning into it, isn't he, Robert?
Yeah, that's why I can like we humans. We cannot have it all resolved. We'll mess it up, like just to make it different, just to make something happen. That's me. But no, I mean that's how I get to engage you too with new people. I've seen wonderful new listeners and people that enjoy watching and reading about and playing uh, properties of that are sci-fi. And I mean, it's the perfect place for you to find people that have things in common with you that you can have amazing, great conversations. Actually,
Awesome. Um, we do have a voicemail uh,
ooh,
that we're going to
Yeah.
play. Someone, Mr. D, called our hotline and left a voicemails for us about sci-fi.
Well, good morning. First of all, I would like to tell someone if they wanted to believe in sci-fi and they didn't know about it, just think about whatever world they wanted to create. Something that they didn't think is possible now becomes possible. Something that they thought that they could never put together. Now you can put the pieces of the puzzle together and make it into whatever you want it to be. So I try to tell people about sci-fi that it's another outer world, another dimension. But again, anything is possible. So I would just try to tell them, hey, whatever movie that you've seen, whatever movie that you like, try to put two different things together and just say, hey, we're just going to run with it and see what works. But I will also give them a list of great sci-fi movies so that they could watch them and go from movie to movie, show to show, and to see if it gauged their interest. So that's how I would tell someone about sci-fi. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that I like about that message. Um, One thing is something that I have always said, multiple episodes, is how I feel sci-fi is, a thought experiment. When he said,
yeah.
grab this movie and this other movie, or grab content from either and then run with it. I really like that because I think that's why sci-fi is what it is. It help us seeing the what if of different possibilities.
I was
Um,
laughing because Ray is smiling, looking at me, smiling with maliciousness, and looking at my crotch. I just cleaning my bait, man. But I also have funny thought about exactly what Robert said. To be honest, and it's that he made a great point. Like, if you introduce somebody to sci-fi, don't put them to watch some shitty sci-fi thing like Velocipaster or Sharknado. Because you could be burning a soul that could be in heaven.
Oh
Look,
man.
look.
But it
Real
was
science
fun.
fiction, real science fiction fans, when they see some real science fiction, it just talks to their soul. I remember, like, I was only a kid and I was amazed by Star Wars. I was confused, but still very interested in Blade Runner. I saw Blade Runner when I was 12 and confused the hell out of me. And it took, another 5 or 6 years before I understood anything about what the hell was going on in that movie. But still, the visuals called to me. And it was, you look at these things and you go, wow, was I born in the wrong time? Should I have been born a couple of 100 years in the future, kind of deal? I asked myself that question when I was a teenager a bunch of times. But science fiction calls your soul, and it's just like, wow, this thing just amazes me, and I could look at it for days. And that's when you know that you're a sci-fi aficionado. You just can't get enough of it. I'm sure that both Robert and Gio know what that feels like.
Can you repeat
Oh,
that?
yeah.
What?
Aficionado.
Oh, are you
Ooh,
getting
let's
chills?
see. That sounds so sexy.
Are you getting chills, Gio?
Aficionado.
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there. I think I understand because you're welcome, Gio, for bringing you into this, the sci-fi world that you did not know or were aware
Yeah.
of before.
Yep. I know what I was doing before, man. Just watching Cartoon Network classics, Boomer and shit. Now, real ma. Ding ding ding.
Oh
Hey, the
wow!
first sci-fi that I got into was the Jetsons, man. Ding 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 ding.
Meet George Jetson.
Hey, man, we all dream to be. We all dream to
His
be
boy
like George
Elroy.
because it's like with a pack of money, man. Like just like here you go, here you go, here you go. Like damn, man, that's a role model right there. Or the Phantom from Coast to Coast. Dun, dun, dun. That show was great, man.
Space goes coast to coast. I
Yep.
remember that.
That show was so good. It's such a great idea, man. I hate that there's no shows like that anymore, like cartoons, And then like they
Yeah.
will bring the people and they just fucked up the questions with the answers. It was so good. And imagine in
Oh, I've
Spanish.
started it again. The
Oh yeah.
reminiscing.
Oh yeah. Gio, can you tell our audience what they need to do to be heard on our show?
Well, actually I'm making it my homework. I'm gonna make the first shout out to the person that actually give us and I mean if we have 5 or 6, we gotta try to make everybody is included. Or if we're not mentioning you in one episode because we have too many, trust me, you're gonna be mentioned on the next one or so. But right now, I want to give a special thank you, even though we haven't jumped into my section or the shout outs. But I want to give a special
It's
thank you
next.
to Mr. D for real. And I'm going to actually bring that thank you again on the shout out so I can give the handle so they can actually find him too on Twitter.
Your call is important to us. You have progressed in the queue.
Please remain on the line. Our next
So
podcaster host will take care of you as soon as possible.
definitely. So if you want to be heard on the show, just call 1-305-563-6334 and we will play your message on our next episode. So Gio.
And if Robert said that too fast, just check in the show notes. It's in there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like he puts in there.
So Gio, here we go.
Shout out.
And for the shouts, first of all and foremost, thank you, Mr. D Space Sipowitz. That's how it's pronounced, actually. I practice it, man. Thank you, man. We do
Ace.
appreciate that, Space Sipowitz.
Ace Sipowitz.
Ace Sipowitz. There you go.
Mhm.
Without SP. Ace Sipowitz is actually his handle on Twitter. We do love the support. We appreciate the engagement all the time in our conversation, retweets and the favorites. Thank you so much, and keep it coming, man. We love your views. Join our Discord too. We will love you for you to pick up our brains on all sort of topics and conversations. As you can see, I have a master. The only master degree I have here is on derailing and talking a lot of shit. Also, and I mean, we have so much fun with this person actually today. We had great conversation, so much fun. Thank you so much, Bridget. Thank you. We really love the conversation. Bridget's actual handle is, I'm gonna spell it out so I don't mess it up. It's WH3ELIES_mom. And I mean, thank you again for the engagement and the retweets. And really, your conversations are just fun as hell and super interesting and insightful. We love the way you see things, and we love sharing those views. Also,
Apparently, we think alike.
oh yes, oh yes, we have very much in common. And then you and her think alike because you, I am darker.
Yeah, we both don't like sad endings. She actually
Faint-hearted.
was commenting on some of the conversations that we had about our episode, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and she also agrees with me when she was actually destroyed on the ending of that show, just like I was. So yeah, we great mind thinks alike.
Faint-hearted.
Rebecca's death hit me pretty hard. That was harsh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rebecca's
Hey,
death.
but I sent you that
I
video
don't
where they
think.
fixed the
I
ending.
don't think that it
Thank
hit
you.
you harder than her.
No, true enough.
True.
My
You guys
atoms
mad at
atoms
Adam
have not
Smasher.
been smashed recently. So yeah.
Hey, at least there was like a quarter of her face left over.
No.
You always get to see the ribs and the wires. You got to have ribs and wires. So the same in Ghost in the Shell that we did recently. That first guy that got blown away, ribs and wires.
Blown away, and not in the figure way, but the literal.
Yeah.
The stompy, not jiggy.
Stompy, not jiggy. I like that.
You haven't heard that one? Oh god, that's
no.
Oh god. And there you
next,
go. You got a derailing master here.
Hell yeah! But that's what makes it, man. We
Go
gotta
ahead,
break the schematics, break the rules, man. Next, I want to give a special thank you.
You do realize that this episode's going to go like 5 times the length of the actual movie?
Yeah,
you
can
know,
you believe that?
It's going to be our record.
It's the second time that we do a short movie, and by now, with the second time, Robert and I were sure it's not going to be a 15 or 30-minute show. We can talk crap. And usually we're surprised because when you look at statistics, we talk a lot more about shorter things than longer movies.
Yeah, what's that? That's crazy.
How does that work?
Yeah, we got to start showing 15
Inversely proportional.
We got to start, and we got to watch that thing blew me and robbed me away. We got to watch the Siren Head Monster. Look for it, people. Go to YouTube and put Siren Head Monster. Now, with my next shout out. yes, you gotta look for that.
You're giving a shout out to Siren Head? What?
Yeah, man, it merits it, man. This is like, people have to watch this. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm gonna leave it at that.
My son is scared of Siren Head.
And next one and foremost, going back into the rails, both in the rails and training the water, across the Star Podcast. Thank you for your support and retweets. We appreciate your support. And listeners, I want to tell you, go and check them out. They are very well versed in their podcast. It's great conversations. I definitely suggest them. Thank you again, guys. Last but not least, Night parenthesis open, Star parenthesis close, Fury. I'm terrible today,
what?
man.
Where are we going?
Fury. I don't know if he's furry, man.
Yeah.
I just saw the face of his head, like his face.
And, you wonder what's inside Gio's head.
I'm more furry than him when it comes to like hair in the face, at least.
Well, Gio's face is pretty furry, so I mean, it's not a very big jump.
No, man. I have like a ticklish hug. Imagine this fear in your neck.
Oh God. I take that back. I want to know what's inside his head.
No, you don't. You don't.
You're not ready for what's inside his head.
No, man. No, man. It's like a lot of people go crazy and they don't come back for that, but because I embrace it, it's like a part for me. I can jump back in and out from it.
Oh wow.
Last but not least, from Nightstar Fury, and his handle is Nicholas underscore Wild with an H in the middle of a W and A. Thank you
I'll
for the
make.
mentions, man, for the support,
Mhm.
and keep the love of sci-fi spreading. We thank you very much. What you were saying, man?
No, I was just gonna say I will actually make sure and put all the links on the show notes so people can find all our shout outs. So cool.
Nice, man.
Show notes are useful.
Thank you
Check them
thank you
out.
for saying kindly. He fucked them all up, but you guys gonna be able to find them. Just great. Just joking.
It's a style. I don't know if it's a good style, but it's a style.
Hey man,
Hey.
if you keep it entertained, that's all I care. I'll make a clown of myself, man.
Hey, that's why we love
Hey,
Captain
we should
Chaos.
do
Okay.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That would be a good
Huh?
movie to do. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I
Hmm.
need to go and check what the heck is that. But Robert showed me an aliens movie today that you have to watch, Ray. And I want to watch it on a watch party. I'm gonna just be watching your reaction to the movie. I'm gonna even rewatch the movie.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what we're talking about,
The short
we're
movie.
trying to do a watch party. I'm not sure how many people are interested in it. So basically, what it is you will join our Discord, and we have in our Discord we have a watch party channel where we occasionally just get together and watch a movie together, and we have a chat section we can type and we can have a conversation about what we are actually watching. So just want to make sure everybody's aware. If you're interested, we still haven't opened it up to the listeners. This is something that we're doing internally so far, but let us know. We have already posted a couple of things on Twitter about see how many people are interested, engaging. The interest on that. So reach out to us, or just go into the show notes and click on our Discord and join, and let us know in Discord or in Twitter if you're interested, and we can actually set up a time and date so we can go ahead and watch a movie together.
It's gonna be like a
So
date. For first time. Not their
The,
base.
the reason
Not their base.
the reason why Gio and Robert are so keen on that idea is because it's basically what they used to do at the very start of the podcast. They would get together and sit and watch a movie. And the reason I know this is because I've heard them say it so many times. But they would sit and watch a movie and be pausing it to discuss various scenes, and it would take them like 5 hours to watch an hour and a half movie. So,
oh yeah.
And I mean, we have a better system now because I mean, since it's a watch party, we can even be commenting. So that way, I had to stop the movie so we can be also considerate of everybody's time while they're watching the movie. They're not
Mhm.
compromising to something they might not be able to finish.
Yeah. So
And then we
we'll
can keep
keep
that
all our
conversation
comments.
going if we want.
Yeah.
And
So
the fun thing is that we can keep that conversation going too. So that's the fun thing.
yeah, we can keep a conversation going on chat while we watch a movie. So yeah, we won't pause the movie like we normally do. So
does that mean the surprise of what the next episode's going to be about is going to disappear because people who jump on the Discord and do the watch party will know what it's going to be?
ooh.
Ooh,
We
backstage pass.
typically keep the name of the episode a secret until the release date, which is Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern time. But hey, you might want to join our Discord because that could be cool to know what movie is going to come up next.
Yeah.
Just food for thoughts.
How can a
Okay.
thought can a thought eat?
You see, and this is the reason why I don't want to be inside Captain Chaos's brain.
Hey, it's a good question though. Bet you somebody asked you that in your life.
Aren't your thoughts like macrophages that go around eating small thoughts?
Awesome. So we are going to the next segment.
The outer remnant.
Well,
Okay.
well, I actually won for this one today, too. 2 in a row, man. You think that third time was
I
gonna be a
failed.
charmer.
I didn't go anywhere to do anything this week.
Hey man, I got you covered. I think I'm taking your place on there, and I'm gonna try to join Creek this week too.
Oh, you're going to join Creaky. Oh, cool.
Yeah. But basically, I actually showed up again. We finished the infinite conversation about Alita's Uwu and the Altiverse have all the characters if they have some special something. And it was pretty interesting conversation, pretty fun. We did very interesting comparisons too with other universe uh, properties to Alita. It was very nice having that conversation. It was fun as hell, and I got to talk with a lot of great people too. So like I tell everybody, go to Radio Chaos, man. Go check them out. It was episode 139, so there's plenty of material, and they are every week releasing more new stuff too. And this next week we have Ray, and I'm gonna try to actually be there to ruin it for him. let me laugh like the Drax.
You're going to sabotage me, man.
They
And
used
you
to
know,
call
just
me. You know my name as my actually alias as a teenager. Sabotage.
Right.
Okay.
Really?
Captain Chaos. There you go.
Like I would touch something and it would just stop working.
But have you ever worn sabots?
Ooh.
Oh.
I thought you haven't heard that question before, huh?
Yeah, but I know where it's coming from.
The Danish,
I know where it's coming
the
from.
Danish wooden shoes that they threw into the machinery to break it.
My sugar
But
regulates
then the
naturally.
word sabotage comes from. I think it was Danish. I'm trying to remember exactly. I'm actually quoting from Star Trek. Which movie was that? That was the
Science Fact.
The Voyage. No, it wasn't the Voyage Home. It was one. The Search for Spock. I think it was.
Yeah. Oh, and before I forget, I'm gonna mention on Radio Chaos, the last episode where Geo appeared. I think it was episode number 139. The Uwu.
Uwu Part 2, actually.
Go ahead and download it and watch it on YouTube right now because you get to see Geo in VR.
Oh yeah,
That was kind of cool.
And I even say what I'm wearing under the shirt.
Yeah, so don't say it here. They gotta go to YouTube and find out.
I won. I'm great at baiting people. This is the perfect bait. People are curious. Regardless what they like, everybody's curious.
I knew I wasn't going to be available for a couple of weeks, so I actually came up with those topics because I know that Creaky and Angelus love talking about Alita and her Uwu. So I came up with those topics. I went shove. That'll keep you busy.
And let me see if I get it wrong. And KOs actually love Screwhead way too much.
Oh yeah, he does. Totally. I even put Screwhead's picture up in the top left-hand corner of the.
But I'll tell
background
you this:
image,
it was
specifically for him.
unanimous. It was unanimous that we all are gay for figure 4.
See, I put that in there deliberately as well. I thought Zex would get more. I thought Zex would get more traction, but maybe the right.
No, man. And I mean, I don't remember the second part of his alias, but one of the guys named David. He says he's the man that everybody wants to be and every girl wants to be with. And everybody agreed unanimously.
Yeah.
Well,
and you know what? He's not that smart, but he's loyal. So
it's his character, man.
Yeah.
So you see, you don't have to be so strong, man. You just gotta have it on you.
He's courageous and loyal. You don't have to be smart.
Be courageous.
So, are we ready for this episode?
But how are we
gonna
talk about it? How are we gonna talk about it?
I want to start by saying
people will need to just watch the video because there's no audio.
I am personally excited about today's episode because it is the very first sci-fi movie in history
that we
know of.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm really excited this is the coolest thing. Um, I've been waiting to do an episode on this movie for a while now, and it's only because this is where everything came. This is where sci-fi in the cinemas came from, basically. And that's just, obviously, that's just my opinion. You guys can, if you have any thoughts on that. Um, but regardless of what that is, I'm really excited for that reason. This movie was released in 1902. Um, the movie was based on, um, well, loosely based on two movies. I mean, on two books. So we have the From the Earth to the Moon. That is a very iconic book, by Jules Burns. Very, very iconic.
Yes.
This movie this book actually was released in 1865, and then we have The First Man on the Moon. It might not be as iconic, but just it's iconic, just not as iconic as the other one, by H.G. Wells, released in 1901. And this movie came out in 1902, and it was basically the combination of the ideas found in these two books.
I think, let me interject there. I think I saw online when we were doing research for the science behind the science fiction that there's a TV show now, or it's newer, based on the first man on the moon, actually.
Nice.
Like there's a first season, and it's a newly made show, so it's like it's full color, 4K, and it has audio.
Hey,
It's
I
not
found a 4K version of this movie with a voiceover from the director. So
You find an RGB concert screen version of it.
CRT version,
Well, you know how many versions there are of like Star Wars and Alien and all those sorts of movies now, and they've only been around for like 40 years or so, and this has been around for like 120.
Hey man,
So
I got to see the version of Star Wars when Jabba the Hutt was a guy. Ha! Underground.
I had to ruin that magic for Gio. I'm sorry, Gio.
Hey man, you didn't ruin it, man. Now I have some like OG stuff on me. They might actually accept me in the circle of Star Wars now because of it.
So let's move on to the plot. I don't know how we're gonna do the plot. Should we just
The actual
Each of us-
plot.
I have the actual plot here from Wikipedia, but I'm
No, we're
going
gonna
to
call the
slaughter
plot the
all the
actual
French
plots.
words. All right. I apologize to our French listeners. Apparently, there's quite a few.
This is gonna be
Viva la
interesting.
France! But my
Viva la
poor,
resistance, man.
my poor high school French is going to be strained to the limit, and I'm going to stuff up a lot of the pronunciation. I apologize. I'm
And I
Australian.
wanna
I'm
disclose.
crass and vulgar, so you're just going to have to live with it. All right.
I want to disclose for our French listeners, please, this is comedy, guys.
Please don't take it personally. It's not deliberate. I just fail as a French speaker. All right. So A Trip to the Moon, Le Voyage dans la Lune, was released in 1st of September 1902. Does anybody remember that? No, I expect not.
I do.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
it was
Hey, by
hot
the
that
way,
day.
your French is great, man.
It was hot that day,
I'm
man.
understanding everything so
It
far.
was. Now, the budget was 10,000 francs in 1902. Okay, while you guys were chatting away there for the last 5 minutes, I was very quiet, mainly because I was doing multiple financial translations to try and work out
How
what the
many
actual
dollars
budget
is
would
that?
be today, right? So it's actually in current US dollars, we're looking at about 170,000 US dollars.
Hey,
Oh,
budget.
wow.
So like 3 billion Australian, right? Okay. So
Come on,
Wow.
man. It's not that much.
See,
I think that
I
Australian
know,
dollar
I know.
actually is more expensive than dollar.
No. It is not. No, the
It's not
Pacific
even
peso isn't doing so well these days. Yeah, the
Thank you, Direct
movie
Wars.
didn't cost a whole lot to make, and it's kind of obvious in in the result that they got. But this was just how the first movie was made. They had nothing to go on. Much like if you go back and listen to the very first podcast of this podcast series, you will discover that these guys didn't know what they were doing either.
I'm sorry. Guys. I'm sorry. I did what I could. I still hate my first episode.
Everyone hates their first episode. The first episode of Radio Chaos from the Elite Army, I was the host. I'd never hosted before. I know exactly what you mean. The first time is always a piece of shit. And you realize this after you've worked out what you're supposed to do and then look back and go, well, hey, we didn't know what we were doing. So I suspect that these guys were in the same boat.
Well, Robert, I'm shameless, so I mean, it's pointless for me.
You haven't changed at all, Gio, but
yeah,
No,
man.
no.
I'm a final product.
Trying.
I'm a final product, man.
You're the elf on the shelf. Oh dear. Anyway, so yeah, for its time, I think they did a reasonably good job. They made an effort to. I mean, it's only 15 minutes long, but made an effort with the sets and the costumes, and there were things going on all the time. But of course, this was even before speech cards became a thing in silent movies. So there was no speech across this entire movie. You just had to try and work out from their actions what was going on in the movie, until I actually found a version that had a voiceover. And obviously it was somebody who was French, so they knew what was going on. Whereas there were scenes in this movie that I had no clue about when I first watched it, because it didn't have the voiceover, the first version. So obviously, speech is very important. We can't really have our opening amusing quote without some
no quote
dialogue. So we don't have one. Oh, well. But the plot. At a meeting of the astronomy club, not society, so they're not exactly up there. Its president, Professor Barnum Fullius, I probably pronounced that completely wrong, proposes an expedition to the moon. After addressing some dissent, which means that they were trying to shout him down, 5 other brave astronomers, Nostradamus, Alocophysibus, Omega, Micromegas, and Paraphangomarius, I've got that wrong too, agreed to the plan. A space capsule in the shape of a bullet is built, along with a huge cannon to shoot it into space. The astronomers embark in their capsule, and it is fired from the cannon with the help of Marines, most of whom are played by young women in sailors' outfits. The man in the moon watches the capsule as it approaches, and in an iconic shot, it hits him in the eye. Landing safely on the moon, the astronomers get out of the capsule without the need for spacesuits or breathing apparatus and watch the Earth rise in the distance. Exhausted by their journey, they unroll their blankets and sleep. As they sleep, a comet passes. The Big Dipper appears with human faces peering out from each star. Old Saturn leans out the window of his ringed planet. I don't know when Saturn got a window, but there you have it. And Phoebe, the goddess of the moon, appears seated in the crescent moon swing. Not sure how that works, because they're actually on the moon, so they would be on anyway. Phoebe causes the snowfall, which awakens the astronomers, and they seek shelter in a cavern where they discover giant mushrooms. For those who are listening and not seeing the video, I'm giving them a look, right? Okay, giant mushroom. Anyway.
Remember,
what?
They were already way too high, and those were the umbrellas. They thought it was mushrooms.
Okay. One astronomer opens his umbrella. It promptly takes root and turns into a giant mushroom itself. That's where they come from.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Umbrellas are actually the seeds of giant mushrooms.
They were snorting some kind of like DMT or something like that, I think.
That wasn't snow. It was cocaine. At this point, A selenite, an insectoid alien inhabiting the moon, named after one of the Greek moon goddesses, Selene, appears, but it is killed easily by an astronomer, as the creatures explode if they are hit with force.
Not kill.
More
Smashed like Adam smashed into Rebecca.
Well, that shows you this movie has action.
it does. Not only does it have comedy and satire and adventure, it has
And
action.
sci-fi.
Squeezed into 15 minutes. More selenites appear, and it becomes increasingly difficult for the astronomers to destroy them as they are surrounded. The selenites capture the astronomers and take them to the palace of their king. An astronomer lifts the selenite king off his throne and throws him to the ground, causing him to explode. Harsh, but fair.
Do you notice? Actually, one of them gets happy because he even does a backflip.
Yeah, he was like, the king is dead!
Yeah, he died!
The astronomers run back to the capsule while continuing to hit the pursuing selenites, and 5 get inside. Not selenites, the astronomers. The 6th astronomer, Baron Fullius himself, uses a rope to tip the capsule over a ledge on the moon and into space, because apparently the moon is flat. A selenite tries to seize the capsule at the last minute. Astronomer, capsule, and selenite fall through space and land in the ocean on Earth, where they are rescued by a ship and towed ashore. The final sequence, missing from some prints of the film, depicts a celebratory parade in honor of the travelers' return, including a display of the captive selenite and the unveiling of a commemorative statue bearing the motto Labor Omnitia Vincit. I think that's how you pronounce it. Possibly not. Cue credits. Depending on which version you watch, you get different credits because everybody and his dog had a go at playing with this.
Man, I gotta say for the record that your French is great. I understood everything but the names, so very good.
Oh, wow.
Well, you don't say it like that. You say très bon. Yes, I learned about 3 whole phrases and 1 song in high school French. So
as you know, I am from a country where we are in the same land, so we are brother countries with Haiti, and Creole is a dialect of French. So the only things that I know in French or in Creole are not very nice words, which I'm not going to display here.
Yes, you learn to swear first.
Please don't.
No, I won't.
So I wonder, we talked in previous episode about us eventually making a future episode on
We're very egotistic. We're always talking about ourselves, man.
the very first sci-fi book ever created. And when I was watching this, I seen this multiple times in the past. Obviously not in 1902.
Really?
That we know of.
And I wondered, what part of this, and obviously we know that the 2 books, one from Jules Verne's, one from H.G. Wells, were used to create the story. If we go back to their books, the oldest one, Jules Verne.
It's based on From the Earth to the Moon and Around the Moon by Jules Verne.
Yeah, so the one from Jules Verne's, I wonder how much of that was influenced by Lucian, the Greek, on a true story. And I was thinking about this because I find it ironic that a story that was created to pick fun at how society was is actually the story we credit as being the birth of sci-fi. Have you ever thought about it that way? I don't know. I was watching this and I'm like, wow.
And space exploration.
A lot of science fiction reflects the belief in the happenings of the time. Star Trek has always done that. Mm-hmm. And it's not surprising to me that even earlier works like this one reflect satire of not only going to space, but of the current philosophy and the laws and government of the times. So I mean, whenever you're trying to amuse somebody, like it's the old court jester rule. The only person in front of the king who could tell it like it is the court jester. And again, science fiction is trying to talk about the future, but in referencing the future, it's also talking about the present and possibly satirizing it. So certainly in this case.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that because I find it really interesting. I mean, even the name, and of course, I'm not going to talk too much about this because we're going to make an episode on it anyways. But even the name of the book, A True Story, was a satire. He's obviously making fun of the supposedly true stories that were sold at the time and
Mhm.
made up a completely false, far-fetched story and called it true story. Um, so I don't know. I just find that's really fascinating that I like to think this has to have a hold on every story ever told after this story was published when it comes to sci-fi, that eventually in a change of events um influenced our famous writers like Jules Burns and H.G. Wells, and eventually um it led to the creation of this movie, which is the very first sci-fi movie. I think, in my opinion, if you're a sci-fi fan, um these are 15 minutes, and this is just my opinion. I like to hear your thoughts. But if you're a sci-fi fan, I think this 15 minutes is you deserve to watch.
15. You said
50,
50.
15 minutes.
Well,
Yeah.
this show
You
is 50
deserve.
minutes already.
This 50 minutes, not that 15 minutes. Right. Okay, I'm with you. Keep going.
I wanted
So
to interject, Robert. I wanted to interject before you move on, because I think that why satire? If you think about it, the reason that theater was created in the Greek times is for entertainment. You know, so even when you look at like how theater was played back then in the streets and everything, little booths with like marionettes and stuff like that, or people wearing masks in the big theaters created out of stones and stuff and things like that, to it was to call people, and not everybody had the same level of education, and they wanted to call everybody attention and entertain everybody. So I think that this was the mainstream language for actually um, entertaining all publics at once, which
that's
will
what I
make
find
sense.
ironic. That's exactly what I find ironic, because this was not theater. At the time, there was a series of books being sold where it tells you the story a traveler took. Let's say, for example, from Greek to Rome. So someone might write a book, and eventually, this is how I envisioned that it started. Someone would write a book in Greek about the travels, like what would be the best route to take, what day to leave, what you find in the way, and how to get there, how to come back. And those are
That
where
would not be a story. That would be a travel guide.
a travel guide, exactly. So they were making a lot of travel guides and they were selling. So what happens is, I guess some guy figured that if he stretches the truth, they will sell more copies. So one guy started stretching the truth, and then the other was stretch it even further, and it stretched it even further.
And it
Before
became
you
a
know,
black
you have
hole that
people.
they get spaghetti.
Before you know, you have people writing about, oh, I discover a tribe of Indians that I have to fight, and they were selling it as travel guys. And Lucian got pissed because he was writing truth, truly a travel guy, and he wasn't making any money because all these people were making like made up, completely made up stories, and they were selling more than him. So then he did a story that it was even farther fetched than they, where he decided to travel to the moon.
We say, you're
and
gonna
it,
take
and
it
he
far? Watch me. Hold my beer.
hold my
Yeah.
beer and called it
Hold my amphora.
And on top of that, called it a true story. So
But I
that's
think
what I'm
Now,
the taste of madness there too is like people used to drink on copper and bronze cups, and these metals will make you cuckoo if actually you have way too long of what you drink mostly, which is hot wine and a cup of bronze.
Good point. Before you go galloping off into the distance, I just wanted to mention
No
the
pun
interesting
intended.
thing about language. Okay, so obviously that first sci-fi novel is written in Greek and translated into whichever other language you happen to. What would be ancient Greek, wouldn't it? Whichever other language you happen to speak, and of course, all translations are prone to local variation and changes in tone and meaning because the languages aren't completely parallel. But also the title, A True Story. Now, the dictionary definition of story is an account of imagery or real people and events told for entertainment, right? Now, that for entertainment part is important because as a writer myself, you try and pull things in that make it feel believable, but obviously you're making shit up, right? Okay. So in that definition of story, now, story, the word story can be, you can tell the story of modern farming, which should theoretically be all factual because you're talking about something that has happened and you're recounting it. Okay. But then
Did they have almanacs back then?
in fiction, the word story is talking about entertaining people with a wild tale, right? So when it says,
in other words, people like to be bullshit.
Well, no, just let me get to my point before you go rushing off. True story. He may not have actually been saying this is true. He may be saying this is truly fanciful because it's a story, right? This is a true story, not a true story. Do you understand the difference? It can mean two different things.
Yep.
Well, if I don't want to mention too much about this. All I can say is, if you want to hear the true intent of what he was trying to do in the writing, again, I'm not gonna. I have it. I can read it, but I want to save it for our episode. Go ahead and get that book. It is actually free anywhere you look at. I think Google Books has it for free as well, and read the prologue. And the prologue will tell you all you need to know about the intent of the writer in this book. It's not long. I think it's about 3 paragraphs, if I'm not mistaken, where he tells it's actually funny to read.
And I mean,
So
in this time, in those times, wouldn't be 3 paragraphs. Probably like what, four parchments rolls.
I'm not even sure. This is 2nd century AD, I think it was. So yeah, this is pretty old. But going back to the topic, I just find it fascinating because we have so many stories, earlier stories, um, where the moon is centered. I know that Mars has also has hold the attention for a long time, and that's another thing that I wonder if they saw the moon as a more feasible, more realistic reach, and decided to make stories about just reaching for the moon instead of reaching for other planets. What is your thought on that?
Well, the moon's up there. You can look at it every night when it goes over, if presuming the moon is passing during the evening, and you can see shapes with the naked eye, and if you have any sort of magnification, you can see craters and dark patches and light patches and all that sort of thing. And an inventive mind tries to come up with reasons why it's like that. I mean, the man in the moon was a thing for a long time. It's even part of this movie in that the man in the moon gets hit in the eye with the bullet that the astronomers are riding in, which is an iconic picture which has been around on the internet ever since the internet formed. So all of these things are in the public psyche. and it's part of something you can do. You can walk out the door and look up and see the moon. Now, it's a lot harder to walk out the door, look up, and spot Mars, even when the orbits are closest together that they can be. Mars is a little reddish light. That's all you can see without a decent telescope. So while, Mars
It's safe to
is in
say
the public
that
psyche
it's
as
easily confused with SS.
well, I'm sort of talking before the ISS, more around.
Oh,
around
You're
when
yeah.
this
talking about
movie was made.
1901.
Yeah, but I mean, even more recently, and with the ISS and all that sort of thing, being able to spot things in space, space is big, really big, to quote Douglas Adams, and seeing things. I mean, the moon is big enough you can see it with the naked eye, so that would be way more in the consciousness than like Mars or even the ISS, because you've got to know what you're looking for and when it's going to pass over and that sort of thing. Having said that, my son and I have been out with the binoculars and watched the ISS go over, so that was pretty cool. But you can actually do it if you Google the ISS tracking website and find out when it's going overhead, because it gets
That-
around that thing.
Yeah.
I actually have like 3
I-
apps for that. Love it.
The cool thing about orbit is, and this blew my mind when I first heard it, is that orbiting is basically falling towards the Earth and continuously missing.
Yes.
You've got enough speed that you are
Yeah.
falling towards the Earth, but because you're moving across the surface of the Earth, you don't end up falling, you end up orbiting. So, yeah, all orbit is basically falling towards the Earth and missing, which blew my mind.
Yeah. Another thing that I was talking about, and I think Gio might know where I'm coming from on this comment, is whenever we watch sci-fi movies, and I hear a lot of comments, I don't want to get into details as to why some people might hate a particular movie over others and how a movie is dated. It might have problematic topics. I always thought, and you guys let me know what you think. And this movie might be an example of what I'm talking
I
about.
love problematic. But keep going.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. We should be watching and enjoying the movie based on the times that it came from. There have been some movies that I have watched that I don't agree, but I still enjoy. This movie is the very first, and let me clarify that
Do you
we
like
know
Human Centipede?
sci-fi movie. I'm sorry,
Do you like the Human Centipede?
I never seen it. I don't think I'll watch it.
Don't go there. Don't go near there.
It's just gross. However,
I thought you would enjoy it anyways.
no, never watch it. But because that's a different. I don't even want to get into details. But
different taste.
and
Hey, Robert, you know that bag of unhappy ending movies? Human Centipede is right at the bottom, okay? It's right in the very basement. Don't go near there.
But what I'm trying to say is this movie was released in 1902. It some people might not like it, and I understand that, and that's okay. I just wanted to point out that in Rotten Tomatoes, this has 100% score, and the audience score is 90%.
I'm sure I know why. I mean, it's the first of its class. It's probably teaching material.
It's an iconic, and I think many of you have actually seen
it's
it.
the verse of motion pictures as it is. If you think of something,
And many of the listeners now listening have seen a scene for this movie and not even know it's coming from this movie. And it is that famous scene where you see the moon being stuck with that projectile in one of the eyes.
He says so nice being stabbed on.
Well, you want to say it a different way? Go ahead, Captain.
No,
Chaos.
I just said it. Stab in the eye. But you said it just. I don't even remember how you said it anymore.
This is how iconic it is. It meant that so many people have seen part of this movie not realizing they've seen. And this movie is only 15 minutes long. and is if you my thought is if you are a sci-fi lover, you need to watch this movie. This is, and if you're watching our video, you are going to be seeing an image displayed. Basically, what I'm talking about is the moon with that projectile stuck in one eye, and apparently he's bleeding.
Of a
So
cheese roll.
yeah, I thought the moon was made of cheese,
This
but
this is the colorized version.
I think that in reality it's not cheese. It's just a face across a pie of merengue.
also maybe that's a cherry filling.
No, I think it's
Oh,
more like a key lime pie. Maybe
It could be an apple pie.
he looks sour.
So cherry pie, yeah.
cherry pie or
Yeah,
strawberry pie.
the moon seem the moon that I made for the for this episode image seems a little bit like he could be smiling at some point, but this guy doesn't look like he ever smiles.
Yeah, yeah.
Give
It's
him
a
a
good.
break. It's probably really hot under all that stuff.
or
Yeah.
maybe it's like because of the black lipstick and shading, he's gothic, so it's part of the
Well,
character.
just put yourself in the moon shoes. It's always there in the sun. There's no shade. He can't get an umbrella, and now
Hey
you get
man,
something stuck in your eye.
there's shade, man. When his butt is cool, his face is hot, and when his face is cool, his butt is hot. There's a perfect balance.
Well, actually, the moon never moves. Like, it's always facing the Earth.
Yeah, but
So
the
poor
Earth
thing.
goes around the sun. Ooh, come on,
Yeah,
man! I know more about you of science. I feel like a genius right now.
and Ray is having fun.
He's like, "What's happening here? Geo
I'm
is
not gonna
becoming
jump
rubber,
into
and
this.
rubber is becoming Geo."
So
Exclamation,
It's all
translation, man.
chaos.
yeah, it's okay.
It's called
But you
tidal
cannot
locking.
deny I was right. I was right.
The the phenomenon is called tidal locking, by which the body has the same rotational period as its orbital period around its partner. So the moon is tidally locked to the Earth because it rotates in exactly the same time it takes to orbit the Earth. This is why we only see one side of the moon. And the whole dark side of the moon is actually a misnomer. It's the side of the moon we can't see. It's not
man, Pink
dark
Floyd.
specifically.
Pink
Yeah.
Floyd, like that movie you have in your playlist on YouTube. Go watch it, people. It's
Yeah.
good.
Mercury is also tidally locked to the sun, and it's a phenomenon that's seen quite a bit in astronomy, basically because of the way the gravitational fields affect each other. And it would also be really, really bad if the planet you're living on was tidally locked to a star.
Oh yeah.
Because
Whoa,
one side
just
would be
live in
cooked
one
and the
side.
other side would freeze, and there'd be this tiny little strip around the equator where it would
We
be
can leave.
permanently sunset, and you could actually survive. But yeah, don't recommend it.
No, people. It's what I'm telling you. We get tired of shit. We just try to see what's on the other side and die just because we're tired of sunsets
Poof.
or sun rising. What is it?
Yeah, think about it. I think I see your smoke coming out of the head.
Permanent
No, I
twilight.
want since Drake just proved to all of us and our listeners that I just went the number one in how wrong you can get this with the title lock. I want him to answer me that. What is this, a sunrise or a sunset?
It's
Is it on?
it's
on the
not
west or on the south?
referred to as either because it's not changing. So therefore, it's permanent twilight is what it's called.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I can't believe I corrected a scientist. Now I can talk to Neil
Captain
deGrasse
Chaos.
and go to the Planetary Association and become his vice president.
Hey, Captain Chaos, don't let it go to your head. Come on.
let me live my fantasy, man. I even put my if our listeners are watching, I even put my sci-fi spacesuit shirt with a bunch of astronauts just floating like my thoughts inside my head, clueless.
Let me see if I can if I can show it here. There you go.
There he is. Hey, that reminds me of the loading image for Odyssey.com.
Look,
Nice.
floating away. It's floating away. It's floating away.
For those who don't know, Odyssey is an alternative to YouTube.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out because
Yeah,
YouTube
check it
can
out.
be
Some
annoying with the
good stuff on
commercials.
there.
No, YouTube. I'm not gonna take free commercial stuff subscriptions, and
You know
it's
what?
gonna make me hate every commercial. Yes.
Yes, obviously. There's one thing that I wanted to talk about. Um, the it's about the Selenites,
Yeah.
the insectoid alien inhabitants of the moon. Um, you could say they are, they're obviously the inhabitant. They're more. Um, they can look like the indigenous people in this story.
Mhm.
So,
But their faces look like the mask of Sauron in Lord of the Rings.
well, they're supposed to be insectoids. So, I
But the girls didn't have toys faces. I was like, how do they even kiss?
yeah, I know. But when I was watching this scene, and I watched this a while back, obviously, and I'm kind of curious to see when was the first time you guys saw this. But when I saw this scene for the first time, it 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 reminded me. Um, when I was watching it today, it reminded me of a story that I heard. Um, I'm not sure how true this story is, but to me, it was very poignant. And it makes sense. So if you guys are listening to this and just comment, let us know. But here's how the story goes. It's basically on the Apollo program. They were doing some, obviously, the preparations, the testings. I'm not sure if they were in near a Indian reservation. Um, and they had the astronauts and the people that were doing their thing. And there's a couple of Indians he approached the this places, and it was an Indian. I don't know if it was the chief or not. It was an Indian and his son, and they approached the Indian approached the one of the astronauts or whoever was in that camp, and he says, I was talking to him in his language, Indian language. Again, I don't know which tribe. Don't remember, um, but that's besides the point. So the the astronaut, or let's call it astronaut, because I don't know exactly if it was one of the crew members of astronauts, looked at the Indian and was a little puzzled because he didn't know what he was saying. And the son spoke English, and he said, I'm sorry, what my dad is trying to say is what you guys are doing here." And he said, "Oh no, we were preparing. We're very excited. This is the Apollo program. We're getting ready to launch uh, a program to reach the moon." And he, the son translated for the father, and the father looked at the guy and
Laughed,
started speaking
probably.
in Indian again. And the son translated, saying, "My dad is asking if it would be possible for you guys to let him send a message to the moon." This guy was excited. This is, if you think about it, could be a really good promotional thing for NASA. To have a message. How we send that disc into space with message to aliens. So he said, "Fine. That would be great." So he tells his father. His father's. So he said, "Give me a minute." He went back to camp, grabbed the recorder, and gave it to the son. The son pressed play, and just dad said the message.
Wouldn't he press record?
Yeah, press record. This
And
son press record.
that's why we had the golden LP on the first voyage. And it seems that Elvis Presley was Indian.
Nah, no. So he gave the recorder back to the NASA employee, and he took it back to camp. Um, but before taking it to camp, he's like, "Do you know? Can you tell me what your dad said?" on the recording, and he kind of briefly laughed, like a half laugh, and said, "I prefer not to say." So he took it to camp.
Ooh.
NASA took it to Indian reservations around. I don't know if it was multiple. The cases
Give me
they
the good
took it
stuff, man.
many places, and they all laugh and say, "We prefer not to say."
Oh my god, I want to know.
So they took it back to the offices back in NASA, and there was one of the employees spoke whatever language that was, and they gave it to him. It's like, can you do us a favor? I mean, we take this to Indian reservations. No one could tell me what it says. Can you tell me what that says? The guy pressed play. He started laughing his ass off. And the guy's like, dude, please don't tell me you rather not say. So no. Let me tell you what he says. and the guy says, "Hey, Moon, you see these white guys? Watch out! They're coming to take your land."
I had a feeling that's what it was, but I didn't want to spoil your story.
So I don't
Oh,
know if this
dear.
is true or not, but I heard it, and when I
Great,
saw this
man.
scene in this movie, I was laughing because it's the first thing that came to my head. Is how these people came in to the Selenites, and they're already killing. I mean, the first scene they killed one Selenite.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's poignant.
Cool.
So
So
maybe they're not killing.
Yeah.
That's just a symbolization that they snorted because they thought it was an Indian or something with cocaine.
So
Some
can I
Scarface
direct the
stuff.
discussion for a change? Because I know Robert loves to drop these questions that
yes,
lead us into conversation topics. But what I found interesting was that there were a few obviously there was a lot of things they got wrong,
Yeah.
which we could discuss after this. But I want to discuss what they got right.
I thought it was a documentary, no sci-fi.
Okay. Now, I visually want to display this, and obviously we'll describe it to the listeners who aren't watching the video that drops a month after the audio comes out. But let me just share the screen here and show you something. So we want this one. Okay, so I will ask you guys this question. What does this scene still from the movie remind you of? Something important about the first or one of the first trips to the moon.
It looks like a full moon in Mordor.
full of craters.
Mordor.
What are they pointing at?
The Earth.
Yeah, that looks like the
And
moon.
if I now change to this shot,
Yes. So
Earthrise.
for the listeners, we moved from a still of the movie where they were watching they call it moonrise, where is basically you're standing on the moon and you're watching the Earth, to an actual shot of today's day of the Earth
Well, it was
from the moon.
1968.
Oh, this was
Damn, man,
1968.
they had good
Okay.
cameras back then.
Well, yeah.
This is at timestamp 8:19 for those who are going to go back and watch this at some point. And
Whoa.
the actual photograph is now. Let me give you a description of this. It's called Earthrise. Earthrise is a photograph of Earth and some of the moon's surface that was taken from lunar orbit by astronaut William Anders on December 24th, 1968, during the Apollo 8 mission. Nature photographer Galen Roll described it as the most influential environmental photograph ever taken.
Yes.
Everybody has seen that picture.
Yes.
So that's something they got right. They got Earthrise right. 66 years before the photo was taken. So I thought that was very interesting.
And remember,
Depending on
this
the
movie is
position of
120 years ago.
Yeah, but
depending on the position of France, it seems like the Earth in there is half lightened. So we think that the Earth, I mean, eventually will come out fully to light, or it will stay
Mhm.
like that, like it's sideways being seen, depending
Well,
on the position of the moon.
It's like the moon. That depending on the position, you will get, a crescent moon or a full moon.
So that is waxing Earth.
Yeah, well, it depends on the angle of the orbit, but obviously, if you can get a full moon, you can probably get a full Earth.
Mhm.
So they hadn't really thought about that, but at least they got the moon right. An interesting
Yeah.
thing is those two shots that I just showed are 66 years apart.
That's
Right.
amazing. That is amazing.
Science
if we
fiction, science fact.
yeah, so I probably should have put that at the end of the show, but anyway, something they got right.
Yeah, but it's amazing. This is part of the reason why I think this movie is a most watched for sci-fi fans, and it's not going to take you long. It's like I said, it's 15 minutes long, and it's a worth watch for a sci-fi fan.
Consider it a sci-fi time pro bono donation. It's worth it. Hell yes, and you're gonna laugh.
And you know what the interesting thing is? The Wright brothers threw a year after this movie came out, the first powered flight, right?
He didn't get in that
Oh,
flight.
yeah.
That far.
And the first landing on the moon was a year after that picture was taken, right? So it's 66 years difference between the first powered flight and humans landing on the moon. Only
Yeah.
66 years.
So if
Yeah.
I'm
Which is
getting this
freaking
right,
amazing.
fact, woman can fly.
No,
Well,
but
we have
yeah,
we have-
I was going to say I found that really amazing that a year
is.
later after this movie came out, only a year, is the first flight.
So be
but
careful.
66
And-
years between those two pictures and 66 years
we
between
men
the
cannot
first powered flight
fly.
and landing on the moon.
We just walk. We just walk, man, and we can swim, some of us, but they can even fly, man. Because I mean, the years first flight and women. Watch
you,
out.
you know what I'm talking about, Gio, right? The first
I'm just being
flight
idiot.
of an airplane.
Yeah.
That is big. A year after this movie release, we have our first airplane flight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
and 66
amazing.
years later, people are landing on the moon.
Trust me,
That is
I live in North
freaking
Carolina.
incredible. That is science
That's
fiction
a
right
sea
there.
tag.
Science
Yeah.
fiction turning into science fact. But the interesting thing is that if it wasn't for the two world wars, that never would have happened that quickly.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
technology increases in leaps and bounds during wars, because you've got to you want to win the war, so you've got to have the better technology. And you know, nuclear weapons never would have come about if it wasn't for the Second World War. And you know, obviously nuclear weapons are a terrible, terrible thing, and I wish they'd never been invented. But the knowledge gained from splitting the atom led towards many other.
If I'm not mistaken,
discoveries.
we have enough nuclear weaponry to completely destroy Earth. Completely.
Four
No
times
survivors.
over, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But besides the point, if it wasn't for the two world wars, there's no way you would have gone from the first powered flight to landing on the moon in 66 years. It would not have happened.
Yeah.
In fact, if it wasn't for the Cold War, the moon race never would have happened. Because it was only the fact that there was the competition between the US and the USSR to get to the moon was, I mean, the Russians beat the US into orbit. The first orbital device. They had so many wins that the moon was the only thing left that was vaguely reachable, and that's why JFK said, "We're doing this. We don't care how much it costs. We're doing it." And you guys got up and did it, which is freaking amazing. The fact that there weren't many Apollo 13s out there, I would have expected way more losses than there were. But yeah, it was incredible what the US pulled off, and the fact it was only 66 years after the first manned flight is just like,
oh yeah. You didn't watch it in I think that the first time that we got a moon was 1968, 1969, right?
Yeah.
And
I was in the womb when men landed on the moon.
Oh man, how do you remember that?
I don't.
And I wanted to tell you because I'm into watching like a lot of wingsuit and like extreme sports, and I watched a video that I would tell everybody just pause and watch it. It's freaking amazing even today. I don't know if you guys heard of Joel Kittinger.
No.
And And I mean, this guy is right now like the father of space. This guy took a helium balloon, got something very similar to a spacesuit, and went all the way to the edge of the stratosphere and jumped.
Oh, I saw
Oh
that.
yeah,
And
I remember that
I
and
guy.
then
saw that.
took a bunch of parachutes because they were not gonna stop it with one. But I mean, he recorded himself while doing this, and like the camera on the balloon basket is just scary when you look at the pictures. Like he just going like poof and just becoming smaller and smaller on the face of the earth and falling. Uh, Almost 1,000. He reached Mach 1 if I'm not mistaken, while falling down. It's amazing.
Wow.
And I mean today, like the next one that surprised it after that was I think in 2014 or 13. It was Felly Browner, I think. I'm butchering his name too, in a Red Bull video because they do a lot of like stream sports. But he this was the first time since 1966 that somebody actually broke the fastest human traveling uh, from Joe Kittinger's record on Record Guinness. And
Yeah.
it's still amazing to watch. I mean, you had a lot better imagery and resolution. I mean, we're talking about the GoPro's golden era in there, and I mean, it still looks amazing, man. And it's something that everybody should watch because I mean, watching the Earth from the edge of the stratosphere is just like being in space too, just from a closer and more beautiful and pristine uh, view.
Well,
You know, that being far
the
away.
viewing that in the first, like viewing it yourself with your own eyes changes
Yeah.
people.
And everybody that travels to the space or Earth or like to the ISS or the moon, it gives that longing to come back to home too.
It ch-
But also, when you're back here, you want to be up there again. Even if be up there, just come back home. You know, every time that I watch Scott Kelly or Mark Kelly's travesties to like to the space and things like that, and they describe it like that, and it's something like, wow, I want to feel that. You know.
yeah, the experience is very it definitely changes you. um it's they describe, space is being described for these people as just an emptiness, a blackness, and it gives you a sense of isolation and how
But
we are
mhm.
alone in this thing.
But
It's
it also
very
makes you feel it gives you that feeling of when you look at Earth, you look at Earth like home. When you look at it from
exactly
above, you don't look
that
at your country or your state or your city anymore. You look at, wow, this is my home.
very profound because this is the only thing we have. It's basically like we call it spaceship Earth. That's all we
And
have.
even from the moon, the Earth is tiny. Like it's like, and it makes people realize that we can't squander the Earth because it is only a small drop in the ocean of space,
They gotta go
and
and
it's
look.
all.
They gotta look at the image from the last image that the Voyage 1 took from the Earth. And the blue speck,
Yeah, the blue dot.
the blue dot.
Yeah,
So you can see how small.
the upshot is that a lot of ex astronauts and cosmonauts become environmentalists because they understand that it's not about countries and borders and we do this and they do that. We are all living on the one planet with the one atmosphere and the one set of water on it, and we have to look after it, all of us.
And that atmosphere is very thin. When you
Oh yeah,
watch from space, it's a very thin layer of blue, very thin.
it's
And you
described as
wonder,
if you have an apple and you look at the apple skin. The atmosphere is the apple skin on the apple.
very profound. And that
Although
leads
apple skins don't have even wax.
it makes me wonder, how we have, I think, a company, I forgot what the name of the company is. They're trying to come up with a gateway space station. Basically, the theory or the idea is that, and you can Google this, a gateway station, space station. The idea is to have a way for astronauts to be in space and not be suffering from the lack of gravity. So apparently, this is a round structure that goes round and round, creating simulated gravity. Obviously, not at the strength of the Earth, but it's some gravity, which basically in space you have none whatsoever, and that would make it a lot easier for astronauts to, you can exercise, you can walk around, and they are thinking of not only opening to uh, governments and space agencies, but also opening to businesses like the Hilton. And this will be capsules. There will be, I don't know if you guys heard of this, but they would be
Virgin.
capsules.
Isn't Virgin Atlantic working on this
They
project?
they will buy it. They will buy a capsule too, so they can have their own thing there. I think Hilton bought a capsule. Obviously, they bought a capsule, but these capsules have not been built yet. I believe the last I heard, they're waiting for Falcon Heavy, which is the only rocket. As the last time that I heard, the only rocket that can carry the payload that they need to build it in space.
Yep.
And every capsule has I think there will be a kind of like in boats when you go on a cruise, you have those the how they have all those boats in case something happens where people go in and evacuate. They have
Shuttles.
they have shuttles all around the structure that covers the amount of people that would be allowed on the space station.
Or it's like
And
baby spaceships.
yeah, they're skate pods basically. So they are designed to return to Earth safely. Um, so the reason why I'm bringing this up, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this or not. Um,
I did.
you did, okay. It's an amazing. I love.
First time, what I think that you and I were watching it together actually. And first time I saw it, I thought like, whoa, that looks like a buzz, like those cockroaches that you step on and little cockroaches come out.
I should just mention the reason why they can't spin the station up to Earth standard gravity is because at that speed it's really hard to dock, because they've got the thing spinning, sort of like if you imagine a circle spinning. You can spin a space station fast enough to create 1G, right? But it's going
Yeah.
so fast that having these capsules docked to the side of it is really freaking difficult, right?
Mhm.
So you'd have to either slow the thing down so you could dock and then speed it back up again, which would use huge amounts of fuel, which they don't have, or you have to accept that you can't have full 1G.
Can they achieve
and
that
be
with
able to dock
solar
continuously.
powering?
Well, let me tell you what the idea is, and you guys agree. Let me know what you think. The gateway is in the it's the next stage, the next evolution. I think the very first space station they're planning to do is called Von Braun, and that it's going to be now gateway is going to be huge. It's going to be I'm going to have to look at its scale, but I want to say like 3 or 4 times as big as Von Braun, which is going to be the one they're building first. And they're saying that because it's bigger, the rotation doesn't have to be as fast for them to create more. So basically, if you compare
More mass,
Von Braun and
more mass,
Gateway,
less,
Von Braun
less.
will have a lot more gravity than Von Braun because it's bigger and the circumference when it goes around. So does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah,
Being
I
bigger,
mean, to me
you don't
that's
have to
physics.
rotate as
That's
much.
physics. That's mere physics. More mass, less resistance.
And Ray, have you heard of this before?
Oh yeah. I hadn't heard the way they were going to use it specifically, but that design has been out there for a while. It's also the conservation of angular momentum. So once you get something spinning, it'll keep spinning. Physics is cool, but I never actually studied it in high school. But I've discovered all this
Oh, I
stuff
suck at them. I
since.
suck at them. but I'll tell you something.
You also
Yeah.
know the name von Braun that they're going to call the first
Von
space
Braun,
It
yeah.
station.
rings a bell. But
Werner von
but
Braun, who
I'm a
was
literal.
instrumental in the development of the Apollo
Oh, there you go.
program. He was actually an ex-Nazi rocket scientist
He
who
also
worked on the V2s. So
he also
He
came
was.
up with a theory
Don't
of a
call it
rotating
ex-Nazi.
station.
He was probably a double agent.
He came out with a theory of having the rotating space create gravity. That's why
Nice.
they're
all right.
naming it after him, as a like a commemorating what's going on. with the space station. You know,
I thought that he
now
was gonna call it the Fourth Rage.
so
But there's a lot of things, Robert. Before you click on where you got right and something you got wrong. The first government is not gonna be a government; it's gonna be the ONU. And after that, Von Braun's base is gonna be one bigger called Tycho base.
oh God. Okay,
This is on the
so
expense.
why am I bringing this up?
That's how belters are born too. Belta.
I'm wondering. Go for it. Quick, tell us.
Why am I bringing this up? Why? Right? Here's the thing. We hear a lot of astronauts, or well, nowadays we don't even have to go to government agencies, because we have companies like Virgin Atlantic and Amazon's what's the name, um, uh, uh, allowing
Amazon's
Something
lunatics.
blue?
allowing regular people to go into space and becoming astronauts.
Yeah.
That everyone that I have read about, that I have seen, that I have watched on YouTube, that have seen this has gotten transformed.
Blue Origin.
Everyone, Blue Origin, thank you. Everyone has gotten transformed. Everybody has come back to Earth with a complete different mentality after watching Earth from space and watching this space. And I wonder, because you know how society is today, how we have hate dominating our daily life
Segregated.
in different ways. In different ways. So I wonder if our introduction to space, because the creation of the Von Braun space station and consequently the Gateway station would be a lot. That would be a lot better because it will be able to host a lot more people. Will allow eventually the average person to travel to space for vacation, because that's the idea. That's why Hilton has bought a capsule, and they're going to have people rent rooms and they can go in for a week vacation like you normally go into a hotel right now and be in space and come back to Earth. And I wonder eventually, and of course, this is far into the future. This is when um, space travel, due to these space stations that will be created,
Cannot be that
become
far, man, because I want a
normalized.
belter's girlfriend.
Before this, when this becomes normalized, will society, will humans change as a whole when
Yep.
we are
I think the
experiencing?
difference is gonna be we're gonna see ourselves as a whole, and we're gonna see ourselves separated from aliens. Then you imagine, so it's like we think that we evolve, but we just become a bigger problem.
But Ray, you know where I'm going with this, right? That experience, it's going to be at a wider range eventually. It's kind of like, when airplanes first were invented, only rich people could travel. And eventually now everybody can just buy a plane ticket and go anywhere. So this is what's going to happen. This Bonds Braun or Gateway Station or whatever space station is created, eventually it's going to
Tycho.
become cheap enough that the average person will be able to buy a ticket and have a vacation in space. And
But will there be average people left by then? That's the question.
But based on the edge runners, it's not gonna be that easy to go to the moon.
so
You're
what
gonna
is your
have to
thought?
have a whole crew, a boyfriend that is gonna die for you, and make sure that the whole crew dies, so you get all the eddies, and then you can go to the moon and feel guilty about it up there.
He has a
So
point.
yeah, yeah. Well, Gio, what is your thought
Edge
on
runners
this?
is basically what you're talking about, Robert.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Although she went to
man,
the moon, not just the orbit.
but you're leaving an important part of this. Where are you leaving Mars? You see, this is why Mars becomes an independent nation, becomes the power of military and weaponry. It's because we forget about Mars with this all cool stuff, and then they start getting their schemes and stuff, and next to nothing, they're like the guys with the bigger guns, and like, oh shit, we should have kept an
So
eye
if
on
you
them.
guys want to listen to that conversation about the
That
expanse, Go back to our
That
season one.
I was actually thinking it was more like, and that if you want a leader battle angel, because that's how you get a leader battle angel.
Well, actually
Pretty much.
that is actually very canon with it. Actually,
Pretty much. So, Gio, you heard me talk all that. What is your thought on what I just said?
oh, I mean, I look at these things with Aoi, I think, and I think it's not only the beginning of that, but it's also the beginning of interstellar traveling to be able to have systems like this in place. Because if not, it will be like a disaster piece. Like you see how in the expanse, for example, people that never been in the earth suffer in places that have gravity. That will be the disaster story of that. Because I mean, whenever you put a human in contact with a gravity of any kind, chances are we're gonna find a heavier gravity because most of the exoplanets that we have on our list are bigger, way bigger than Earth. We're gonna get squashed, and we're gonna just die or be basically not able to even breathe because of the pressure of the G-force generated. So these things are gonna help us keep and even train ourselves or with genetic modifications from here to there because I mean it's forbidden now, but I'm sure that eventually it will become a necessity too, and it's gonna have its medical use.
Yeah,
Um,
that I see that in the far future, but I was
yeah,
actually talking about our exposure as humanity to take a vacation in space. Not necessarily live there, just going in, and eventually it will be so common knowledge as common knowledge as someone just grabbing a ticket and going in a plane ride. Not necessarily to live, just going on vacation, and eventually having everyone or mostly everyone on Earth experience that. How would that
but
change humanity?
I think that for that to happen, we will have to reflect that on our current society first, because even though we have so many technological advances, which I myself are privileged have been able to enjoy or experience and use, we see that there are still big gaps of social spaces where there are people that don't even have the dream to get on an airplane or on a boat or even know what's smartphone, you know. So we will have to work on those things where we make accessible what we have before that becomes the norm. If not, that's gonna be the norm in higher classes, societal classes. You
Now,
know, this,
if it
yeah.
becomes available, because this is my point. We got to a point in human history where space travel becomes just like plane travel is now. Anybody can actually pay. Not everybody, and I know some people are still afraid of flying, and even though it's affordable to fly, they
We
rather
use it.
drive.
We use the cannon that the
So,
NASA was developing,
so
so they
my
don't have to
question
fly.
is, so my question is, and I don't know if Ray, if you get what I'm going with this, my question is, assuming we got to a society where travel to the space station is affordable for everyone, how would that change society? In
It will
your
make it more
thoughts?
united. It will make it more united. But again, my point too is you're looking at the Disney princess and prince outcome of it. You know,
Of course, he's Robert.
yeah, and I am putting there's a big obstacle that is just way too obvious to ignore. You know, and that is a big telltale in many new technologies, even flying. I mean, me growing up, it was not even a dream for me to fly. You know, I didn't think I ever would get on an airplane in my life. And I know many people that they are born, raised, and they live all their lives in little towns, and like they don't think of these things because it's not in their scope of possibilities. But looking at the beautiful outcome and like if that will be a reality, that's gonna be a big step for us to become a collective community. You know, to be more united because that's the thing. It doesn't matter where you're from, or where an astronaut is from. He or she gets up there. They don't look at themselves as uh, an American, Chinese, a Russian, French. They don't look at themselves as Australian or New Zealand. No, they look at themselves as I'm an Earthling. You know, so it makes us unite as one big race. They stop looking at that division of oh no, you're from here and I'm from there. No, we're all from there. You know, and if you want to put it psychologically in simple words, it gives you the real image of what's the bigger picture.
You understand humanity rather than I'm an American, I'm an Australian, I'm a whatever.
Yeah, you can
The,
see
the,
that. You
the
can see
whole
that in the
definition of
camaraderie
the whole
on
definition
ISS.
of nationality goes away.
Yeah, it goes away completely. Then you understand what means being a whole race. Being humans, because we think
The,
that race is where you're from, and that's not. It
the
has
thing is,
nothing to do.
a lot of people define themselves by who they hate or who they at least dislike greatly.
Look, I
And
like to say
it's
most
always been
animals
that
got
way.
it right. Most animals got it right because you can get a dog from China and a dog from Dominican Republic, and they can understand each other. But if you get a person from Dominican Republic and a person from Russia, and none of them speak the same language, they don't understand each other for jack.
Yeah, well,
That's a perfect example in there.
they're
Uh,
working on different levels, man. You can't. That's not a direct comparison.
but all
Yeah.
dogs
But
from the same level.
what I'm saying is, if technology can bridge that gap, you've got these
Yes.
devices now you can stick in your ear, and it's basically a babel fish, and you can hear a direct. Well, it may not be perfect translation, but you can hear a rough translation of what the person just said.
I see that as a shortcut. I see that as a shortcut.
Then if technology can bridge that gap, then we can start understanding each other almost immediately. And that's when we will start seeing ourselves as a global population, not a regional population or a countrywide population. So
I think that that's useful, but I am afraid that these technologies also could cheat us from reaching the real place, because because I can understand what you're saying doesn't mean that I am considering it or I'm caring for it, but like I can bet you whatever you want, you can put one person from each nationality on an interstellar vessel that is never going to come back. They're all going to be doing the same thing by the time that they get to whatever they're going.
Well, they have to. It's the situation requires it.
Exactly. That's the evolution. That's the result of this equation that we're talking about. That's the unity that I am envisioning when you put everybody out there. But I mean, going for one day or two, it's like you having an awakening, and I mean, it's a constant work. So if you don't keep it up, when you come back here, it's gonna be gone in a week. It's just like, oh, those vacations were great, and 2 weeks after, you're like, oh, I need another vacation. Well, what were the vacations for? Now you need another one in a week. So that's why I'm put the picture like an interstellar vessel, and I'm putting that as the equation. Like you put one people from each different place, they're gonna be one whole community by the end of it.
You're getting a bit far from the question that was asked, though, Gio. The question that was asked was, if people can go up to a space station and look at the Earth as a whole rather than just seeing what they can see from the surface, is it going to change their perspective? I think that's what the question you're asking was.
I think it changes as much as going on a Bahama weekend cruise.
Well, I think it's life-changing to go into space. I do believe that, because it is so far out of the normal human experience that it would have to be life-changing. Now, you're right. There will always be people who can't afford it.
Not everybody.
And there will always be people.
Spaceman.
There will always be people who can't afford it. There will always be people who are too afraid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be the people who think it's pointless because we're too busy fighting over what's going on the surface. And those are the people I'm afraid of, because those are the people who will fuck it up for the rest of us.
Yes.
Excuse me using the F word, but it's what they will do.
If you look, that's good.
Yeah. If you look at what the Chinese government's doing at the moment, I think that they're the most likely. Well, Chinese government and the Russian government, the people who are in charge there are very close to psychotic in the choices that they're making. There are a lot of people who are afraid of. Well, I mean, look, it wasn't that long ago that there were riots going on across America, and the people who were in charge there were considered to be a little bit unstable.
Yeah.
Now, China and Russia are taking a turn. People who are in charge and get a bit too big for their britches start screwing it up for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. It's just what happens. And there are people out there now who consider China's government to be like pirates who are just going to wander off and do whatever the hell they want and not give a shit about the rest of the world and the people that they're supposed to be looking after. And it's happening with Russia. Russia invade Ukraine and think they can do whatever they like. And if people push back, they're going to wave the nuclear card at them and all this sort of stuff. It's very scary shit. And I'm just hoping that these people who are so short-sighted that they think they can take whatever they want don't end up screwing it up for the rest of us. We never get to that point where we get this global perspective, because it's all devolved into war and destruction, and everything's fucked up for everybody. I'm hoping that doesn't happen before we can get the global perspective of we are all one people.
And the messed up thing is that in most properties of sci-fi, where you see that we go like space traveling is the norm, there's an escapism there that Earth is already a lost cause. You know, that's a sad thing.
Exactly.
So that's why I think that the collectiveness, that's where it comes and play a very important role, because it doesn't matter how many people we have, if the majority are the good people and they stand their ground, it's gonna be muffled down. It's gonna be obscure. I mean, a leader and a tyrant is just as strong as whoever follows him behind. I mean, you can be a tyrant and you can say, "Oh, I'm gonna wage war on them," and if all your soldiers says, "No, we're not going," what are you gonna do? You know?
But they don't. The problem is that good people, the world falls to disorder and ruin when good people say nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Interstellar traveling is our salvation.
Captain Chaos is in fine form today.
Yep. Come in. I want my ticket. I'm out of here.
After this major derailment, going back.
Interstellar derailment.
I guess.
When are we doing that movie, by the way? It's going to be like a 5-hour discussion.
Blacklist.
Yeah. We're going to have to split the episode. Guarantee.
All right.
I'm going to start with Gio. I'm going to start with Gio. When was the first time you saw this?
I can tell you probably early years in high school, like maybe 12 or 11 years, and I watched it and I loved it, you know?
What was your first impression?
Oh, I mean, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was comical how they saw them. I definitely thought it was made of cheese, Swiss cheese to be precise. And I mean, it was amusing completely. It's like I told you, like when I was a kid, and you like about. I mean, I can feel like my singularity and the way I see things and experiences are the same time, like the same. Seem like 9 to 10, and I watch it very little bit after this or around that time. So I just loved it and enjoyed it more, and just more experienced in life, which means I fucked it up a lot more than there. And so I can actually understand a lot of more satirical terms and comical things that I could not catch as a child, you know? As a child, I would look at it with a lot more innocence and not look at all of these real issues that actually can be projected in the way that things are developed in the movie. You know, like they get there and the first thing that they do is just attack, you know, instead of trying to coexist and see if there's a way to communicate.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that, and especially in the fact I saw this at a younger age and multiple times thereafter.
We saw this image, all of us, even though we are so separated in time, right?
and the perspectives on the different times that I've seen this is obviously has changed, and you get different things every time you.
I'm
watch
never
it.
getting an advice for you, and every time that you say that, I get more scared because it means that if you give me an advice today, you might think that was shit when I told you that, bro, 10 years ago, and you did it.
Ray, when was the first time that you saw this, if you recall it?
Well, oh boy, I was today years old when I first saw this movie.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
well, you are the newbie now.
I am for a change.
Okay, you just earned your sci-fi car, man.
I had turn it back in. Yeah, I had seen the shot of the moon being hit in the eye with a bullet, but I didn't know exactly where it had come from, and I had an inkling about this this movie because, you know, what was the first sci-fi movie? I had an inkling that this existed, but I hadn't actually seen it. So yeah, today is old.
Nice. What is your, I guess your fresh, it would be fresh perspective on watching this movie?
You're the baby here.
Well, I watched it and I went, oh my God, they barely knew anything. But that's why I brought up the question of what did they get right? And there is actually another thing that they got right that hasn't been mentioned yet.
Awesome. Go ahead.
I actually got it on. I got something from the science behind science fiction about that too.
Oh, cool. Well, the other thing that they got right was when they hit the alien with the umbrella and the alien went poof, right? But do you know what it is that they got right?
Yes.
I'm very curious to know.
I do.
Okay, Gio thinks he's got it. Tell us what you think it is.
Go ahead,
this is
Gio.
John Carter all over, man. It's the exoskeleton strength. There's no gravity over there. So if you hit something that is in 0.01 gravity, you're going to freaking poof it off.
Yes, the difference in muscular strength of somebody who's born and raised on the Earth versus a creature that was born and raised on the moon would be significantly different. They would need hundreds of those guys to overpower a single Earthling because the Earthling would have so much more muscle mass that, hitting him with an umbrella, they would go poof. They pretty much got that right.
So the champion is Virginia.
and in the throne room when the lead astronomer grabs the guy and goes poof, it's like, yeah, that would happen.
You know,
he made it to the dark side of the moon. He made it to the dark side of the moon. But
the thing that they didn't get right was that if he picked up the guy and flung him at the floor, he would go the other direction.
Yeah, bounce.
He would like go poof. Ah!
I'm even screaming because he will be also a corpse by the time he's actually bouncing back.
Well, there's no atmosphere on the moon, but anyway, we'll just step right past that.
Yeah, because there's oxygen in the moon, so you can just walk around.
The cheese, you don't get hungry. Or is it cocaine?
Yeah,
not even snorkeling, man.
Maybe it was grated cheese that was falling.
Man, they didn't even need snorkeling.
Parmesan.
The Parmesan. The biggest lasagna you've ever had.
There was a Greek guy. There was a Greek guy probably scratching the back of his ear on top of him.
Okay, so I am going to ask the question that I ask at the end of every episode. And since I started with Gio on the last one, I'm going to start with Ray this time. What are your final thoughts on this movie?
For the time and the experience that they had in making movies, which is basically zero, they did a fantastic job. I mean, you can see the whole concept of storytelling in 15 minutes here, in that, you know, there was a premise, they had some resistance at the start, and there was actually, in that first scene, there was actually a couple of bloopers which were left in. The guy who walks in, the lead astronomer, Belafurius or something like that, I think his name was.
That was Galileo Galilei, great-great-grandson.
He trips over the rug, and then he knocks his own hat off when he's getting up onto the podium, and he picks it up and brushes it off and puts it down. It was great. I mean, the whole concept of storytelling is in there, with the premise, the lead up, the arrival, the challenge, the escape, and the return, and then the bit that's not in all the cuts of the movie, but the celebration at the end. So all the points of storytelling were in there, with, you know, challenge and resolution and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it was a very good piece of work, considering the time and you know what they had to go on. I mean, special effects, they even attempted that, which was amazing for the time.
Glad you weren't born then.
Yeah, obviously they got some things wrong because they didn't know, but they got some things right as well, which I thought was really interesting. So, which is why I brought the whole thing up in the first place.
Giving a break, man. They didn't know about G-Force.
Oh no, I'm totally giving them a break. I mean, yeah, you're right. They knew nothing about G-forces. I mean, they would have been totally squashed, being fired out of a gun like that. But maybe they had the back of it full of baguettes, so that they had some cushioning.
Before that,
surround the whole cattle with baguettes it gives them food and gives them some cushioning, because when they landed on the moon, that would have been fairly shocking as well.
Yeah.
They need some Star Trek inertial dampeners, but yeah, they didn't have any of those things.
Awesome. Gio, what is your final thought in this movie?
Well, I mean, I think that this movie is paramount for filmmaking. Like I told you earlier, like I think that everybody's in the filmmaking is giving this as homework for sure. And I mean, it's fact that this probably is the birth of filmmaking and motion picture
Sci-fi
as is.
filmmaking.
But do you have many movies before that?
They're
Like silent
movies, but
movies?
this is the very first sci-fi
Like
film.
like I mean, Charlie Chaplin probably and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the birth of a genre, and actually for the better, even the change of how motion pictures were done, probably. And and I think it has a lot to be liked about it. You know, it shows again, and you mentioned this also a lot. Like it shows where we were back then and what we were seeing ahead of us as a whole kind. You know, and I definitely, I mean, I watched this movie in my life more than 30 times probably. Uh,
Professor Google says the first film created for entertainment was in 1888.
it was
Called
not far actually from the.
Roundhay Garden scene by the French inventor Louis de Prince.
Okay,
Nice.
so still the French beat us to us to it.
The French were right up there in filmmaking to start with, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. And I mean, Frenchman. I mean, whenever I want somebody to look sexy, I was like, just pose like a French model, you know.
So it only took them 14 years from the first entertainment movie ever made to making a sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So it might take us 1,400 years now to make. I think it's fantastic. I love the movie. I think it's a must watch. It's a fun watch, and it's actually very very insightful too.
And its length too. I mean, it's totally TikTok generation length. So there you go.
Hell yes, man.
Yeah. So my final thought, it's I would have to add to what you guys have said, and I actually challenged the listeners to watch the original version with no commentary on it, and then watch the version that has a commentary. And one thing that I found amazing, although there's parts that you will not make out and will definitely understand after listening to the commentary track, you will find out that I want to estimate about maybe 90% of the movie you would know what it's all about just by watching what's going on. And I find that to be genius from the movie makers, to be able to do something like that without speech. Speech is something so important, and to us and to film. Um, the the ability of them to be able to do something like that and make you understand, it's amazing to me. And of course, another thing that I find interesting about the movie is the fact that the visions, like Ray said, how they have moonrise. Just remember, this
Earthrise.
is Earthrise. Yeah, this movie was made in 1902. There's no way that they can, like visualize or even think the average person on how that would look like. And I find that so profound that I can see this from a movie in 1902 that describes something that, it's so accurate in that manner. I always find fascinating how sci-fi stories, sometimes do get right the future. And this
Yeah.
is what I find so fascinating about this film.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, so should we move on to the next segment?
Well, for the record, before we do that, we talked about
Mhm.
2 hours and 5 minutes for a 15 minutes movie. I was on point.
I'm telling you, we
We
will
can
do
talk
it.
a lot of crap. I can derail like a pro, bro. Let's do this.
Okay, here's goes the segment.
The science in sci-fi.
Okay, so for the science and sci-fi, we all have a part. Can you believe that?
I have
Damn, man.
trained you well, my young apprentices.
Yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh no, I'm gonna call you Quigan, but don't get cut in
Come to
half,
the
please.
dark side.
Don't get
Science
stabbed,
side.
Quigan.
Oh, who should go first? That's something that we haven't talked about. I have a feeling I want to leave Ray for last because I consider anything that Ray brings to be really good content. So I don't want to.
You shouldn't always assume that, man.
You're
I don't want
probably
to.
probably gonna put me first because I'm the crappiest content,
I
probably.
don't want to go after because then I'm gonna look like.
No.
Oh God. Okay, who's gonna go first?
You go first, and
Let
I'm gonna
Gio
go
go
after
first.
him.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up on this movie is the delivery system that they use in this movie. Um, I find that really amazing, and I don't know if it's maybe this is a case of art,
Uber?
science imitating art.
Uber?
Um,
Is that what
I'm,
they used? Did they
well,
use Uber?
I like to call it the space cannon because it sounds really cool. And I have an article here from I want to call physics.org. It's actually phys.org. It's an article from 2010. It's an older article, but the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I remember hearing this nonstop. I don't think it has become a reality yet, but the conversation is still going on today. And this is even previously to this article's date of 2010, where they use they're thinking about using space cannons to shoot payload into orbit. And this article actually has a video that explains this whole delivery system, and I find it fascinating because it's basically what's going on in this movie. How they're using a cannon to shoot out things into space.
Is it a cannon
Uh,
or a slingshot?
no, this is an actual cannon.
Okay.
It's a cannon. And it says, let me see, they're proposing using a 3,600 feet cannon. Just think about that for a minute. To
Yeah,
shoot.
I fit in the Marina Trench.
It's probably more. It's probably more like a rail gun than an explosive propulsion system.
A certain specific one?
Yeah,
A
maybe.
certain scientific one,
A
maybe?
certain one. A certain one. Uh, so this cannon could deliver cargo into orbit. But the thing that everybody likes about this delivery system is that it actually would cost about $250 per pound. And that is
That's not bad.
a massive, massive savings on the on
Yeah.
the on the current $5,000 per pound, which
I
is
can't I can already imagine like my package hasn't arrived. Sorry, we didn't aim correctly, so it's right now crossing Jupiter.
oh god.
Well, you guys, do you guys know why they don't use something like that for passengers? They're only going to use it for cargo.
G-force.
Oh,
Thank you.
I can imagine that.
Pancakesville, yeah. People can't handle the acceleration, whereas most cargo could. Some cargo couldn't.
Rapid acceleration.
They're
Yeah.
actually now that you mentioned that there's an experiment that a guy did actual rockets on a train rail. Very, very old. I would say I cannot tell you the year per se. I think it was like mid 1940s, something like that. And they made him go on acceleration like in 1 second to almost 900 kilometers per hour, something like that. It was outrageous, and he survived it, but he had horrible concussions. His eyes and nose and everything on his face was bleeding. He got a lot of bones broken. but it was interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that will kill you more than anything is concussion. Now, what concussion is basically your brain moving when it shouldn't.
Or
So
swallowing.
if
Getting
your
swallowed inside
body,
of the crane.
the whole point of the physics of this is that anything that's accelerated suddenly, if there's anything loose in it, it will try and resist that acceleration.
No, let me correct. If there's anything left on that, it's gonna be finished on the arrival.
Well, the thing is, your brain is soft and it's sitting in a fluid, and it's basically floating inside of your skull. Now, if you accelerate your skull really, really quickly, your brain will take a while to catch up, and so it'll be compressed in whichever part of your skull is at the back, and that
In
gives
other
you the
words,
concussion.
it will make you narrow-minded, literally.
For a moment.
For a moment.
And then
Yeah.
the brain will expand back, and then the brain will swell because it's been
not made to.
badly concussed.
It's not made to compress.
So a concussion is a compression and then a swelling, and having your brain swell is really, really bad for you. So yeah, it's not healthy.
It must
It's
be a
really,
bad headache.
really
It must be a
not
very
healthy.
bad headache.
Which is why they don't shoot people out of cannons.
Yeah.
They use a rocket which accelerates at a specific rate so that it doesn't squishy your brain.
Let me
And
go
that
ahead
is
and
why
say,
in Elite Battle Angel they were replacing people's brains with chips.
yeah, and that would make sense.
Mobile
Let
the
me say,
brain.
I'm going to mention a couple of facts about this system that will help put that into perspective. For example, the combustion system heats up the hydrogen to and it's 2,600 Fahrenheit. I believe that's 1,430 Celsius.
How many
Which
kelvins?
Hot.
increases. I'm sorry.
Really hot.
How many
Yeah,
kelvins?
hot. Really hot.
Yeah, I'll let you figure it out. So, which increases the gas pressure to 500%. Pressurized hydrogen into the. It's actually an 1,100 meter long barrel.
So you cannot send candles to the space, right? They'll be melted.
Well,
So they're not using a railgun. That's surprising.
it would be inside a capsule. So they calculate they're sufficient to launch what would be needed to sufficiently launch a 450 kilogram payload at 60 kilometers per second. That is 13,000 miles per hour, and it would produce 5,000 G's. Just
Escape velocity.
Just think about that for a minute.
Oh shit, bro.
5,000 times the current gravity under which you are existing at this moment.
I don't think that even the bones will make it.
It would clear the atmosphere in 100.
Where are the passengers? There's a little potato paste in here.
So I
100
just
seconds.
figure I mentioned those quick
Wow.
facts to put things into perspective, and it's just like, yeah.
If you want to
Do
put
not
it in
stow
perspective,
away on this thing, boys and girls. Do not stow
and
away.
again, I'm gonna pinch on people's curiosity. If you want to know how bad this will be, again, watch the Monsters Sirens Hat.
Oh my god,
Now Ray's gonna go watch it.
that's actually an inside joke. So if you guys want to know about it, you're just gonna have to tweet at us. Just tweet at us. We'll let you know. We're not gonna say it on the show. We'll let you know on Twitter.
All I'm going to say is oof at this point.
Okay, I think Gio, you wanted to go next, right?
I wanted Ray to go next because I want to
Oh,
see.
you
He
want to
got
go
my
last? Oh,
homework.
you feel that brave?
yeah.
Oh my god, he
Oh,
feels
man.
brave.
I'm overconfident.
All righty
Today.
then.
He never
Okay,
works
so I got
in my favor, but it's okay.
I got two. One which is serious and the other one which is comedic. So I'll let you work out which one's which. Now the interesting thing is when we talk about science behind science fiction, it's basically the thought experiment of the science fiction becoming science fact, or basically giving scientists ideas which they take forward and make science fact. Okay, so the idea's got to come from somewhere. The idea of your iPhone or your iPad or your tablet or whatever. That idea had to come from somewhere. And quite often,
Star Trek.
Well, I'm talking about 2001: Space Odyssey, but basically, well, that's the classic idea, where the idea came from. But you got to have an idea before you can turn it into a reality, into a technology. And sci-fi is a wonderful thought experiment, as Robert has alluded to many times, which generates these thoughts in scientists' minds that they then turn into reality. And that's the beauty of sci-fi. You can look back at sci-fi and go, okay, this is where the people got the idea for that, or it could have been part of the impetus and the drive to make it like that. Flip phones from Star Trek and all that sort of fun stuff. Okay, so now this particular movie has a unique perspective in that it was at the start of the 20th century. Right, so it's way before all the other ones that we've covered, and may have had, that priming the thought process for scientists to create something way before anything else that we've considered. So, if you look at the cannon that they used to fire the big bullet to the moon. And then you look at something like the Nazi railgun Schwarzer Gustav, which is basically the biggest cannon that's ever been produced and fired for military purposes. It's quite possible that one of the original proposers of the idea for the Schwarzer Gustav had seen this movie. So I wouldn't put it past them. It's about the right age, if they'd seen it as a kid and then grown up, because France is only over the border from Germany. If they've seen the movie when they were a kid, in the 1900s, and then Hitler's asking around for what can we do, what can make us look big and powerful, and he goes, I remember this movie. There was a gun that they fired at the moon. Hey, why don't we make this really big cannon, to fire shells hundreds of kilometers and really piss off the Allies. And Hitler went, yeah, that's a great idea. Snort some more cocaine. Yeah, terrific. So they did it. I feel that there could be, I don't have any proof, but there could be a link between this movie and the production of the Schwarzer Gustav, the largest cannon ever fired in anger anywhere in the world. So that was my first one. Now, my second one actually has a visual component. So I will bring this image up, and we'll describe to the listeners what the image is. So did that come up? Yeah. Okay. So that's a shot from the colorized version of the movie. And you can see, my pointer's coming up. That's terrific. This is the umbrella that this guy here is putting down, and it turns into a mushroom and grows up. And you can see that all these other fellows are carrying umbrellas. So clearly an umbrella.
The weapon of choice, umbrella.
Well, a vital piece of equipment to take to the moon is an umbrella, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
At least
if you don't know, just visit Mary Poppins.
Umbrellas are really important, right?
Yes.
And now I will just show you a couple of. Oh God, that's tiny. Let's make that bigger. I'll show you a couple of images here.
Damn, man, they got umbrellas on space.
I'll show you another image.
Well, before we move on, we got to describe it. So basically, what we're looking at. Can you describe it, Ray?
I knew you'd put it back to me. Okay, so basically, communications devices. When you get into orbital and further distances, require a fair bit of power. And how you get that power, especially when you can't carry huge batteries and the like, is focusing the signal. And to focus this signal, you use a parabolic dish. What's the easiest way to transport a parabolic dish? Make it foldable. What does a foldable parabolic dish have in common with an umbrella? Well, basically, you turn an umbrella upside down and point it at the sky, and it is a parabolic dish with an antenna in the middle. So, whereas these guys in the movie were carrying around umbrellas, people who went to space, the moon landings, carried basically inverted umbrellas, which were parabolic dishes used for communication. So I'm showing a couple of pictures of the parabolic communications device that was on the lunar rover and the parabolic communications device that was deployed, at least in one of the missions, to communicate with Earth, which is basically an upside-down umbrella.
Wow.
So there you go. They
Until
took
now,
umbrellas
man,
to the moon. They just didn't use them as umbrellas.
until
Yeah.
now, then, man, I thought that there was just a big string of yarn that went all the way to the moon with a can on that side and a can on this side.
Well, we know that's how your internet works, but no, that's not how they did it.
No, my internet, man, is like I'm listening to a fax before it starts. It used to be called dialogue back then.
Oh wow.
Well, if anything, this particular point has shown how I can draw a really, really long bow connecting things together.
He was like, I have to get something. I
But-
cannot go back
No,
here.
but you know what? To Ray's point, that's something that I had never really thought about, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
You know, you would carry, upside down umbrellas to space because you have to.
Mhm.
But if you
Inverted
use them in here, if you're using here for rain, it's gonna get heavy and you're gonna get probably showered.
You're gonna get wet. There's holes in there, so
And an inverted parabolic dish is basically an inverted parabolic dish is basically an umbrella. So if it's foldable, so there you go. It's basically an umbrella.
They
It's
didn't
the
use
same
it for
shape.
communication,
It's
though.
the same. It's the same function to deploy. It's just up the other way and does a different job.
Yep.
awesome.
I mean, if you want to go even further, even when you have hard winds in here, it gets like a parabolic one when it flips up.
Yes, you can have it go the other way. Yeah.
Being from
that would
Florida,
be
Robert
the-
can relate to that.
Yeah, that's what happened during Hurricane, Ian. So yeah.
Yeah.
That goes.
Well, I suspect that these parabolic dishes were just as disposable as your average convenience store umbrella as well, because they wouldn't have brought them back with them. They would have left them there.
Yeah. Okay, Gio, since you felt so brave and going last, what
Well,
is
he
your
didn't
choice?
actually capture the one I did, so I'm bringing
Nice.
something to the table, even if it's worthless.
Woo!
But actually,
Enlighten us, Theo. Enlighten us.
from your favorite source, man, which is Wikipedia, the most trustable source on the internet, where everything is truth.
Yeah, everything
It
is
says,
peer review. Okay, you gotta say that.
yep, yeah, it is, man. If you need something and you don't want it to discuss that is the way around, go to Wikipedia, man.
Man, you feel the sarcasm in my comment.
But it
Go
says
ahead,
in
go
there
ahead.
actually that this movie was actually paramount for what we know today as special effects because of the many uses they did an employment of special effects on this movie actually, which was not very known of back then in the motion pictures making.
Mhm.
Nod sagely.
Nice.
So in the science of filmmaking, this movie actually was instrumental for what we know today as special effects actually. And for seeing actually Charlie Chaplin doing so many great things that were funny, but the same like whoa.
Well, it's the difference between props and special effects. So props are basically things that you bring on set to represent something in real life. A special effect is something that doesn't normally exist in real life that you create for the sciencey part of the science fiction.
Like
So-
the fire on the moon. It was something like waving like a blanket with a
So,
with a
so
fan.
there would have been a lot of props used in movies before this, but
Mhm.
not special effects
Mhm.
because
although
they were
there was a
science
part of the movie that I was like, that's not very aligned with the reality when he actually the president he falls on his ass and he falls on a nitrate acid bucket and he just stands up and walk away from it. I don't think that I would have happened that way. When you really fell and soak your ass on acid nitrate.
in 1902 there was no such thing as work health and safety,
No.
either on the
No.
moon or on Earth. So there you go.
But yeah, I don't think that he would have been able to stand up from that. He would just corrode his freaking crutch. But yeah, that was
Nitric
what I had
acid
to
is
bring.
nasty stuff. I have used it.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no more
Awesome.
from my side, man. That's all. Hey Ray, when can I start taking French lessons with you, man? I definitely need to learn some French.
You can take Aussie lessons with me anytime you want.
No, French, man, French. It was a great French introduction, man. I understood almost everything.
Everything but the names.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He said he was gonna he excused himself before saying it. He said that his French was
Hey,
not
Robert.
great. I
Robert, how do
understood
you say
almost everything.
taking the piss in French?
I have no
I don't want to try.
I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. Oh my god. This was a fun episode. I'm glad that you guys.
Wait, how do you say
Pondre
taking a
la
piss?
pisse.
Huh?
What?
Pondre la pisse. Thank you,
Oh, there
Google
you go.
Translate. He's taking the piss.
Awesome. Yeah, this was a fun 15 minutes to watch. And I
Not
hope that
recording. Watch.
yeah, the movie. The movie. It's a 15-minute watch, and listening to us is 2 hours and a half. So
But
on
we're
the
just saying it
15,
by the end, so it's too
It's the
late.
director's cut extended version.
there you go.
Yes. There you go.
So I hope you guys really enjoy this film as much as we did. It's very short. It's 15 minutes. You know, you could watch this. It's actually on YouTube. The multiple versions. I watched 3 versions on this. The first one was the original version. The second one was the colorized version, and the last version that I watched is the one with commentaries. Do
The
me a
described
favor
version.
and watch. I'm sorry.
The described version.
There you go. Do me a favor and watch the original one first, because I'm really curious to see if you guys have the same perspective that I did. After you're watching the original and then you watch the version that has the comments on, and see how much you actually grasp of the story of this movie. Um, one of the things that I applaud about this movie is the fact that they're able to give you story without giving you speech. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very curious about that.
And I have another idea for all our listeners too. If you want to even have more fun after a couple of beers, put whatever soundtracks you want while you're watching it.
Yeah,
Mix it up.
you could do that with this film. You could do that with this film. This is great. So we are so thankful that you guys are with us for one more episode. And you have no idea how thankful we are that we are um, a, a podcast that you listen to on a regular basis. So I really, really thank you from
Yes,
the
thank
bottom
you.
of our hearts. And let's continue the sci-fi conversation. If you love sci-fi as much as we do, um, just make sure you start a conversation. Hashtag this is sci-fi, and let's keep the conversation going. We love talking about sci-fi. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode as much as we did talking about this movie, and we really hope to see you in future episodes. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye bye.